So welcome back with Darren and Peter for another check-in chat as we continue on our COVID-19 journey of discovery. And Peter, always great to have a conversation with you. And I want to talk to you this week on our chat about accountability. And the reason I'm asking this is because I've heard from so many different avenues over the last week or so that now we are moving into a more virtual, a more digital platform, that people are not holding up to their end of the bargain, not holding up to their commitments. And I would like to explore if you've had any direct experience of this as well.
Yes, thanks, Darren. Good to be back. Yes, it's been on three occasions so far this year that I have had a digital gig, workshop, facilitated through Zoom or Microsoft Teams, cancelled. They call it postponement, but in effect, because there's no new date actually delivered to me, I'm assuming that it's probably not going to happen. And this has not happened to me with this level of frequency when I was doing face-to-face training. And so I've thought about it quite a bit, and I've been thinking, so what's the difference between digital delivery or virtual delivery and what you and I used to do face-to-face? And I was thinking, well, if there's not a service level agreement between my provider and the client, then obviously I'm not very well protected. And I know some providers don't do this. They don't have SLAs, as we call them, with detailed cancellation policies based on the amount of time between the actual event and to the time where the event could be cancelled. There's often a increasing amount of percentage whereby the client has to pay back a certain part of the agreed fee. So what's happening? And I'm thinking, okay, so in the virtual world, the client is not responsible for hotel bookings. They're not responsible for catering. And I know hotels are very tough on penalties.
Yes, yeah.
And making sure that those penalties are paid if workshops or venue sessions or whatever are cancelled. So I think in those circumstances, both the client and the provider are very aware of one another, and they make sure they deliver. So for me, there's accountability from the trainer to deliver a good service, but there's also responsibility on the client to make sure that there is an acceptable platform and venue for the trainer to deliver. So that's what I've noticed. I just feel that there's just more cancellations here because there are no penalties, there are no consequences. If a client just decides, you know what, I don't think we want this anymore, and then that's just directed to either to me or to my provider, and it doesn't happen. And of course, that has a direct consequence on my revenue stream.
Absolutely. Well, Peter, you've mentioned two words there, which I get asked this a lot. You've mentioned the word accountability and you've mentioned the word responsibility. And to some, there's a slight crossover of confusion between one going into the other. Can you shed some light on your perspective of clarifying accountability and responsibility? Sure.
Yeah, for me, accountability is when you put your hand up and you say, mea culpa, it was me. I own up. I own up to whatever happened, this consequence that we now see in front of us is as a result of either a decision I've made or something that I've said or some action that I've brought. So it's simply putting your hand up and saying that. Responsibility is the other direction. So now it's I look to providers and to clients being responsible for me in providing a proper training venue. Like in the old days, that there'd be catering, there'd be cups of tea and nice sandwiches for everyone, that the equipment, the hotel would have the necessary equipment in order, the AV equipment for me to connect my laptop and for any other audio-visual needs. So they are responsible to me. I am accountable to them in terms of delivering. So there's a directional aspect to accountability and responsibility. How would you feel this is right?
I think that's spot on as well. So in essence of what you just said there, to make sure that both accountability and responsibility, those areas are being met, we need to think about the role of negotiation in this and where that comes to play for both parties involved, or in fact all three parties. So for you, the person or organization you are giving your services to or providing to for their client. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to fall back to a wonderful tool that I discovered several years ago called this circular value of the 7 negotiation elements. And there's one element in what we call the circular value, which is called legitimacy. And it's basically looking at those standards, those precedents that could be researched, that you could use as a sword to go forward, to put your case forward, but also using those standards and precedents as a shield to protect you. And I think if we get into another check-in chat where we can go through these elements in more detail, I think really, if we were to practice the element of legitimacy, I think this will help identify the role to be covered for the accountability and the role of responsibility.
So can you expand on this concept of, what did you call it? Legitimacy. Yeah. Can you expand on that?
It's basically seeking a sense of fairness. So if I was, let me give an example. If I was a property developer and you were an investor, okay, so you're investing in I'm building the property development, you're investing the money, and we agree. You say to me, okay, so how long is it going to take you to build my development? And I'm going to say to you, it will take you 18 months from start to finish. We'll get there by 18 months. And you say, okay, so you've researched what those penalty clauses might look like for any longer delivery period over those 18 months. So you're now using this as a sword. And you say to me, okay, so that's great, Darren, your ABC company, if you go over those 18 months that you are committing to and contractually committing to, those penalties will come out $5,000 a day for every day you go over that 18 months. And say, okay, fine, no problem at all, Peter. However, now I'm using this as a shield to protect myself. I'm saying, okay, so every day that we complete under those 18 months, we will also be adding or taking a $5,000 a day penalty. You might say, well, actually, no, I'm not happy with that. So if it's not good for you, why should it be good for me? And why should it, if it's not good for me, why should it be good for you? Vice versa. So you can see how by digging down and start to look at, industry standards, what those procedures are, what those precedents are, what you could legitimately use to come up with a sense of fairness for what you are proposing. And again, it will all start to fit in more detail when we go through and explore the 7 elements in more detail. And I think that's worthy of another chat without confusing the issue today, but certainly looking to how you can seek some sense of fairness around that element of legitimacy.
Fairness is bang on. I mean, fairness is exactly the heart of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's both parties coming together, agreeing certain agreements and promises to one another. I guess it's similar to a marriage. It's what you do in a public space, right?
Yes.
That's why generally marriages happen. There's always has to be a witness to a marriage, so that they actually hear the words spoken by the couple, because they're promising things to one another, even if they don't promise the whole, like the typical religious church service of honor and obey. They do promise to marry each other.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And that there's no encumbrances to that union.
No.
Neither party's married to anyone else, or there's no other claim to either party. So yeah, it's very, very, very similar. And the reason why this breaks down is often because there's an absence of a service level agreement and an absence of a enforceable but fair cancellation policy based on when that event is actually cancelled or postponed leading up to the date when it was supposed to be delivered. So
brilliant.
I would love to hear more from other people when we get this posted up on YouTube and we get it on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear more from people and their experiences. Is this true? Or is it just a singular experience? Are there other people out there experiencing problems around cancellation of gigs, and are they finding it more frequently happening in a digital environment that we all find ourselves in?
Yeah. I think you're right. I think there's a lot more that will be able to reveal that it's happening to them than not. So let's leave that as the parting question then. If you are experiencing something similar to what Peter has explained in our chat today, are you committing to providing your services to your provider and maybe their client and have been let down? We'd love to hear your story. Please share in the comments below and give us any feedback that you can, that we might be able to come back and give you some guidance around resolving.
That's the question. So I hope people get back to us and validate, or just come back and say, actually, you're speaking a lot of rubbish. It's just maybe just a period of bad luck that I've had. Yeah. And we do have these periods of bad luck. Sometimes these things happen. But my feeling is, no, this is a real phenomenon here, and I'd love to hear some feedback. Okay.
And I also think this is now going to start showing signs of escalation as well. The more that we start to align to virtual deliveries and those conditions and lack of accountability to show up and go through with it, I think it's going to start to escalate. Peter, as always, great to catch up with you. Love to get your perspectives on things. Remain keeping safe and well, and I look forward to catching up with you on our next chat.
Same to you, Darren. I look forward to that next time.
All the best. Take care. Bye now.